Okay, hello. So I just spent 30 minutes recording a video where I did the X stage. Um, but at the start of that video, I showed this image, which is floor 31. So this is a map that I drew early on in development. And well, I used this map to give me sort of an overview over the game, to decide which stages to put letters in and where to put the secrets, and to get an idea of how the stages would connect to one another, and to see also which stages that I had finished making or not. So that's what the check marks are. For example, in the top left here, I knew I wanted to have 3 vertical screens there, but I didn't know what, I hadn't made the screens yet at that point. But yeah, I showed this image, and then I forgot to change scenes in OBS, so it had this fucking image for the entire duration of the video. And now I'm gonna re-record the fucking video, so pardon me if I'm not in the most jovial mood right now. Okay, so I switched back to the actual capture. Let's get it. Where the fuck am I here? So that video was actually, it was half an hour long. I only did this stage, which I still intend to only do the X stage. And I imagine it's not gonna be that long this time, because fuck having to repeat yourself for another 30 minutes. But yeah, sort of I'm gonna slowly get over it, okay? So something I talked about was this particular screen. So this screen is one of my biggest disappointments. It's a very simple screen. Like it seems harmless, sort of. It's innocent. Like what could possibly annoy you about a screen like this? Just sort of basic needle. Like what's so bad about it? So my problem with this screen, which is worse for me than making a screen that's not fun, is making a screen that's just bland and unmemorable. And that's what this screen is for me. It's just straight up padding. Like it's only here to make the path to the stages longer. It doesn't really bring any new ideas to the table. And like it sort of, it provides no reason for why it should be here. Like why would I make a screen that's just needle when there are already like 200 other screens in this game that are needle? And there are already like fucking 500 other needle games that have needle that is as good, if not better, than this screen. So sure, it serves a small purpose by like I said, by padding the content, which might be good. Like it might be nice that you don't they don't immediately get to the stage. They actually have to go through some hurdles first. But I think in terms of the design here, there's just no idea behind it, which like you can contrast then to this screen and the next screen. So this screen has these invisible gates, for example. Just at least like it's something different. It's something that makes this screen stick out, I guess, or separates the screens from all the other screens in the game. And like this screen has sort of an interesting layout. It has some invisible warps. It has some things going for it, and it's a crossroads, so that makes it sort of interesting. But yeah, for me, variety it's one of my highest game making values. It's one of the things that I strive the most for. Because I want to justify, like, why do people play this game rather than any one of the other like thousands of needle games? Why would you put in time into this game if you can get the exact same experience as in other games? That's my reasoning anyways, and that's why that's important to me. And sometimes that will come at the expense of fun, for sure. Like there are definitely like types of needle that feel very good to play, that I could make like hundreds of screens of probably, that I just not gonna do because it's not my goal. But yeah, I'm just gonna check again, make sure I'm recording correctly. I am. Okay, God bless. This stage, so this room actually, and one of these blocks would be the first block that I placed. So this is the first screen that I made in the game. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about how this game came about. So what triggered me to start working on it. Because when I started, so when I made this stage, it was the first thing that I had made in like 6 months, I'd say, or close to 6 months. So 6 months prior, I'd made Thank the New Geezer, and then I started making this. And I tried to find when the exact date for that was. So the game started with Zero G messaging me on Discord, and he wanted me to make a guest stage for a stage for an avoidance game that he was working on. He wanted like a short platform segment leading up to the avoidance. And well, he asked me if I wanted to take a shot at that. And I said yes, like I want to try making that. And at the time, I was like very out of fan games. I hadn't played fan games for a very long time. I'd mostly stopped watching fan games. And I wasn't very involved in the community in general. I don't think I hang out a lot in the Discord servers or anything. So at that time, I mostly felt like fan games was sort of a past chapter of my life. And I wanted to do other things and sort of move on. But I had also had this idea, and mostly I had this idea like shortly after I made Thank the New Geezer, which was to make a game in a similar vein to that game, which is like a game where every new screen has new gimmicks, and it uses the assets that are in the engine in new ways. And it's sort of these little bit-sized, like almost proof of concept segments that are also quite easy. So it's just like, oh, you get a new screen and it's this new little mini challenge, and then you're past that, and that idea doesn't appear again, and then there's a new idea on the next screen. So I wanted to make a game like that, but instead of the screens being separate and connected by warps, I wanted it to be one long continuous screen. And the first idea I had was to make like an extremely long, like maybe like 50 floors continuous screen. But that would probably not be very welcome as a stage for his avoidance game. His and Sudnet's, I think. So instead, I started making this, and I think you can tell. It's like the way creativity works, and I think this probably works this way for everyone. But the more you work on something, the more you sort of involve yourself in an activity. So say, for example, you play tennis like 5 days a week. You're gonna start thinking about tennis a lot. And of course, if you play a lot of tennis, you're gonna improve your tennis skills. And I think, I don't know if that was a worthwhile analogy, but I think it's the same way with game making. So if I spend a lot of time making games, it's sort of, or making fan games in particular, like it's just gonna be top of mind. I'm gonna think about fan games a lot. And a lot of the ideas that I come up with tend to be things that I've hatched in my head. So these ideas almost just come to me, like I don't have to put in an actual effort. As opposed to like, so I know a lot of people, the way, I want to say the way most people make fan games is that they they open JTool or they open GameMaker, and they just start doodling around. So they start like placing random blocks, and then they'll place spikes, and then, you know, eventually maybe like they'll get an idea and something will come out of it, right? And that's I do that a lot too. But I think I'm pretty fortunate in that I also get a lot of good ideas just from thinking. Like maybe I'm taking a walk, or maybe right before I'm going to sleep, I'll just have ideas pop up in my head. But what I find is that since I had been sort of absent from fan games for so long, I didn't really have that, because fan games were not top of mind for me. They were not really part of my mental routine, so to speak. So I would say, like, when I started making this stage, I was pretty rusty at game making, and I think that sort of shows. Like, these are very basic ideas and very basic segments compared to some of the things that I come up with later on. It's a good way to sort of warm up and de-rust my game making ability. But yeah, so that's how this game started. Actually, it's just gonna be a short, easy, I guess you can call it a guest stage for an avoidance game. And then, like, as I made this game, as I made this stage rather, I sort of started getting new ideas, and ended up making another stage, and then another, and then at some point it just it turned into a big thing, and then I decided that I'm actually working on CN3. Oh yeah, so this is something that I also addressed in the other recording I did. So I think so when I released this game, there was a lot of, or I don't want to say a lot, but there was some backlash. So why is this game called CN3? A lot of people felt like they were, I keep saying a lot, like some people felt like they were misled, like I deceived them by calling this a Crimson Needle game, when in fact, well, this was just something entirely different. So what I got to thinking when I was talking about how this game, like, initially it wasn't even gonna be a CN3. So I started thinking, like, well, maybe they actually had a point. Like, maybe I did just sort of slap the name onto the game, to give the game more recognition, I guess. Because, like, if a game has Crimson Needle in its title, it's gonna be a lot more people playing it. So maybe I did, like, actually, you know, willfully deceive people for sort of selfish reasons. And part of that is true. Like, I did, one of the reasons, definitely not the main reason, but one of the reasons I ended up making this game a Crimson Needle game was so that more people would play it. Like, there's no debate about that. But I still want to address this idea that that sort of the fact that people's expectations weren't met would sort of entitle them to, you know, complain or be general assholes on Delphoot, like make these rude reviews, which that seemed to be what some people thought. Like, some people defended these, like, overly negative reviews, like saying that the game was false underscore advertising. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. So first off, like, the expectation of what this game was gonna be was not really set by, I guess it was set by the previous games, but like an expectation is something you have. It's not something inherent to the game. It's not something that I give you. And it wasn't written like anywhere. It's not, you know, it's not like fucking Jesus came down and wrote in stone like, oh, a Crimson Needle game shall always be 100 floors and it should not have any gimmicks besides vines and all these things like that you might have expected. So those are expectations that you yourself set. And to me, that just means that, you know, I didn't fool you. Like, you fooled yourself if you had expectations. And I'm not blaming anyone for having those expectations, but like you really gotta sort of recognize that actually, like that's probably on you. If you thought the game was gonna be one way and it wasn't. And also, for me, because it seemed like a lot of people thought like, oh, the defining features of a Crimson Needle game are that it are these things, like it's a 100 floor game and it's, you know, straight, it's pure, quote unquote pure needle, and it has this linear difficulty curve, or, you know, so some people would argue that it's not linear, like it's a sinus wave, whatever, and that it like switches tile set every 3 floors, and that those tile sets are from other games, and all of these things, right? And these are like pretty, I guess to me they're sort of shallow aspects of the Crimson Needle 1 and 2. So for me, these are not at all the defining features of those games. So rather for me, and I thought a little bit about this, but I think the defining features are that they're very design focused. And they're design focused in the way that they sort of explore a very wide variety of different styles. So both CN1 and CN2 sort of switch styles like a lot and try a lot of new things. They're pretty experimental, even though they're only mostly using sort of very standard needle assets. And also they're difficult games, so that's another defining feature for me. They are the hardest games that I made. I think arguably some of the Haystack games are up there probably. And also they're just big, like they're extensive. They're sort of these almost epic games, as opposed to more like trivial novel affairs like, say, Lazy Needle 2 or Thank the New Geezer. So those for me are like the defining features, and I think this game like absolutely checks all of those boxes, and that's one of the reasons that I actually wanted to, that I realized like, oh, I'm probably making a Crimson Needle game right now. It's because of sort of the general ambition and effort I put into it, and the scope of the game. So yeah, that's what I had to say about that. And also another point, which is probably pretty obvious and something that I mention a lot of times, but like, it's never really justified being an asshole on Delph-Fruit. And I like to sort of liken this to the behavior of babies. So like, when a baby needs milk, or it like needs food, or it has soiled its diapers or something, they start just crying. So like, that's their ways to express that they're dissatisfied with something. And to me, this is like, when I see reviews like that, it just comes across as like the exact same reflex. Like, you have this instinct, like, oh, my expectations were met, and I'm gonna throw a fit, and I'm gonna, you know, you're expressing it in words. You're just not just crying like a baby, but you're like essentially doing the same thing. You're just, you know, my expectation wasn't met, so now I'm gonna start whining about it. Like, I don't know. To me, actual like toddler behavior seems very similar to me. You know, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it is insulting if you feel that fits. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to the stage now. I'm not gonna have too much to say about this save. I think, so this was probably the hardest secret for a lot of people to find. So I think maybe, let's see, is it, hello? Where's the trigger? Oh, okay, so the trigger is like here. That trigger makes a spike that was previously here disappear. Then that makes this spike disappear, and then you can go up here. Then you go here, and now you can go down here. And I think that's fair. I don't know, should I talk about that now? I could. So the idea I had behind how the secrets were hidden, because I had like a very clear philosophy about how I wanted the secrets to be, like how hard I wanted the secrets to be to find. And the general philosophy behind that was that ideally you would not find a single secret on your first playthrough. So you know, coming into this game, people obviously didn't know that there were gonna be secrets, and I wanted to keep it that way. So I was hoping that people sort of wouldn't discover the secret on their first playthrough, so that they could play through the game without having to worry about checking every crook and nanny, you know. And that didn't really pan out, because of course, like with a sort of a community of multiple people, there's always going to be someone finding a secret, and then that news is gonna travel, and then, you know, people are just gonna be aware of there being secrets and where the secrets are and so on. But that was the idea anyway. So I was hoping that you would get to the end, and then you would realize, like, oh, the game probably has secrets, and then you would go back and, you know, knowing that there are secrets, you would be able to sort of find them if you were looking carefully. And it was funny the way that worked. Like, the only person I've seen that actually played the game the way I was hoping it would be played was Maxinator. So he actually like beat the game, did not know there were secrets, and then he went back and he found them all on his own, which took a very long time, but it was extremely entertaining watching him fumble around. Like, he beat this stage. I bet he beat this stage like 5 times before he actually found it. He was also misled by these black blocks which Plasma put here, which is a pretty significant red herring, I think, because it really makes it seem like the secret is on this screen, which I mean, technically the warp to the secret is right here, but yeah, you find the secret here. But yeah, it seemed to work out anyways. I don't think people were too bothered about finding the secrets. And of course, like, I also make a point out of not like having random fake blocks, or like even dumber things like spikes that fly away when you get close or shit like that. Like, all the secrets have tells for sure. But like how powerful or effective a tell is not really something that I can predict very easily. So I was just like, I mean, I was trying to make them hard to find, but reasonable if you knew that there were secrets, essentially. Yeah, I think that worked out for the most part. All right. Didn't have a lot to say about this secret. It's the commandment secret. So when you're playing this stage, you have to abide by these rules. Like, you're not allowed to get mad, and you must acknowledge that it's always your own fault when or if you die. The inspiration for this stage, this secret, was mostly that I just wanted to design Needle in this style, and I wonder if this jump is possible. Let me see. That's a cool jump. Someone could use that. Where was I? Oh yeah, so I wanted to design Needle with just single colored blocks, because that is just probably like the single most enabling, like it's enabling for your creativity. It removes so many limitations of needle making that it's just ridiculous. And these screens were like, I think these screens turned out really well. I enjoyed playing them a lot. They were very effortless to make. It just goes to show for me how easy and satisfying it is to design Needle when you use visuals like this, where you can like easily go on any grid, and you can easily put spikes inside of blocks, and like, you know, you can pretty much like put anything anywhere without it looking weird or bad. Enjoying making in this style, but didn't really explore it much beyond this secret. I want to say this song, for those who actually like this song, it's a polarizing song. But if you like it, I very much recommend the album it's from. So the album is called The Way Out, and the artist is The Books. So the full album it's songs sort of similar to this one, in that the songs are assembled voice clips, and like all the lyrics are taken from, I believe anyways, from like various sources that are not the artists themselves, I guess. So they're not like written lyrics. And yeah, it's just a very interesting and record, and has a lot of soothing songs and a lot of just interesting sounds. I like this song a lot. I'm not like a fucking music critic. I don't really know what else to say about it. What else did I say about this stage in my other video? I don't think I really said anything else. I mentioned briefly that I'm gonna talk more about sort of meaning and symbolism when I get to the Bad House. Sort of my perspective on that in game design. But I'm not gonna explain what the 3029 is. And then I talked about the sprite for the secret, which is a spinning 3D crimson block that I can't show now because I already got it my last recording. But yeah, Plasma made that, and the idea for it was mine, I think. But he had code for making that effect since prior, and also the colors of those of the secret is actually a reference to Crimson. It's the same colors as the keys you collect in Crimson. Oh yeah, and I also remarked on so this outline, obviously this is from, or obviously, but if you've played Crimson Needle 1, you recognize this from floor 100. And that's another thing that really like makes this game a Crimson Needle game, is that it has all these nods, and it appears to take place in the same universe as the other Crimson Needle games. So, you know, you have, obviously, like right now I have the Crimson Kid, and if you pause the game you get these Crimson patterns, and if you reset the game, oh, you got more Crimson references, right? So that's another thing to me that just goes to sort of make this a CN game as opposed to something else. So yeah. Alright, gonna quickly go over here. I think that the sound effects for these blocks is probably wrong. Got mixed up somewhere, I think. This does not really sound like what you'd expect it to sound like, I guess. This sounds like some kind of error sound. I don't know, maybe it was intended, but I don't really like this sound effect. I feel like we messed up with this. And then I talked about this screen. So the idea for this screen was birthed from the idea I had in Thank the New Geezer. So I had a screen in that game where you follow a line, and like everywhere outside of that line there are invisible spikes. So you have to constantly stick to the line or else you're gonna die. And I thought that was a pretty interesting concept. And I think the idea of having custom sprites or things, so not just using things that are shaped like spikes or blocks, has a lot of potential. There's a lot of things you can do with that. So from that I got the idea for this, which is having a custom sprite for a platform. So like this is just a regular platform that I gave this long line sprite. Yeah, so that was the idea, and I thought this was a really cool idea actually for a screen. But the problem, well, I don't know if it's the gimmick that's at fault here, or if it's the way I designed with it. But I think this screen is actually terrible, and I sort of acknowledge that in this text box here, that this was a mistake. I'm not satisfied at all with how this turned out. It's very uncomfortable. It's like bad infinite jump. An infinite jump is like not a fun gimmick to begin with, and it also like requires a lot of tapping. So it's almost like a screen where you're underwater, which is not comfortable for your wrist. But I think one of the problems with this screen is that I made the line first. So I drew the line in paint, and then I designed the room after it. And I think it's similar to when you make a block layout for a room and then you start placing spikes afterwards. Because I can always tell when people have designed something like that, and it's like the design is never as interesting as when you make a room jump by jump. Sort of think of each jump individually. It's too limiting, I think, to have a preset block layout that you have to follow. And this might have suffered the same problem since I made the line first and had to place the spikes around it. But it would also have been very very hard designing it the other way around. It's like one jump at a time and then like making the line longer and longer. So I don't know if that would have been worth it. But maybe this could have been a fun gimmick somehow. Not really sure. Yeah, this screen has a big skip that it's not really worthwhile doing, I think. You just go there. It's very easy actually. And then you go up here and you're upside down, which means you can also skip this arrow right below me here. Yeah, that was a big oversight. I don't know how we missed that one. Like, it's so easy to fix, but somehow it slipped through. Yeah. So this is the final screen, and it's sort of like a... So I think that the whole stage is like a miniature Thank the New Geezer. Like it actually, it's pretty similar to that game. Like each screen just uses a new set of gimmicks. And this screen is like a miniature of the stage. So there are like 5 different gimmicks sort of combined or mixed together here. And I think this is definitely the coolest screen in the stage. And I think that also goes to show that like at this point I was sort of warming up to game making again, and I started having more interesting ideas, I think. Still like this stage outside of that platform room, but it's a pretty simple stage, I think. Yeah. It's also an easy stage, which is nice. It's a break from the other stages. That should do it. How long was that recording? Okay, so it was actually longer than my other one. Well, good. That's interesting. It's longer, and I'm pretty sure I talked like twice as fast. Because I was pretty frustrated. And yeah, this is where the X would have been. Next video, I'm gonna go to the bathhouse, which is my favorite area in the game. I believe it's my favorite area. It's hard to choose between your children, you know, but I think it was the most satisfying area to make. So that should be interesting, and that might be also a pretty long video, I think. So that's also gonna be just the transition into that stage and that stage. But yeah, thank you.